Do you know someone who ruined their life in just a matter of minutes? If so, how did they do it? 1. Former roommate and friend. He's building a decent career, coaching a local youth sporting team, attending grad school, and just bought a house. Turns out he had CP, lots of it that he got on the deep web. He custom photoshopped it with the faces of kids from his youth team. He accidentally uploaded it to Adobe Cloud, and they sent the feds after him. The trial is ongoing, but he's likely going away for a long time. 2. Pretty successful woman at a company where I worked, got intoxicated, and took an Uber home from a party. Realized she left the keys to her apartment behind, so she decided to climb up to her second-story balcony to get her spare set. She slipped, paralyzed herself, couldn't work for a year, racked up ridiculous medical debt, and the pandemic left her position useless, so she was let go. 3. A guy I know robbed a bank with a note saying, "Put the money in the bag." He was released on bond within a few weeks. He returned to the same bank with another note and robbed it again. I think he got 35 years. These were multiple instances comprised of multiple minutes each, but yeah. 4. The man who unalived my grandfather had never so much as had a speeding ticket. He was married with kids and fell behind on rent. My grandfather, in his 80s, worked for the company that rented this guy his home for extra money. Grandpa couldn't reach him about his rent, so he went and did a welfare check. The guy panicked and murdered my grandfather. Destroyed more than one life in a matter of 30 seconds. 5. Excluding accidents and fights. The guy got intoxicated at a corporate holiday party and made out at a party with a work wife who was a one-rank subordinate. HR was unimpressed with violating the zero-tolerance policy and fired for cause. The actual wife, unimpressed with excuses, filed for divorce. 6. He was excited to see a band. He slid down the escalator wall between the up and down as he went to the subway. Tripped, fell 2 stories-ish, and that was the end. 7. A guy I went to high school with was playing bottle rocket tag with some friends and took one to the eye, which blinded him. He was a senior ready for college on a baseball pitching scholarship. 8. Lit a cigarette in an oil change pit when he was a teen. Flammable waste and a lot of oil were illegally being stored down there. R.I.P. 9. A kid I went to high school with didn't look both ways when crossing the street on his skateboard. A motorcyclist hit and unalived him. The motorcyclist was hospitalized and lived. 10. She sold pills that she knew contained fentanyl to 2 people. The first one died. She found out and sold the same pills to another person. That person died. Boom. Life in prison. The texts between her dealer are what led to her arrest and exposed that she had full and complete knowledge that the pills would result in an overdose. 11. An ex-girlfriend of mine, a lovely person, was out at a restaurant/bar with a friend one night. They had a meal and played pool. When they left, for some reason, she drove his car. I don't know why, but I know that when she and I were together, she asked to drive my car just to experience driving a different car. Maybe that was it. And I imagine you take a few extra seconds to adjust the seat and the mirrors and get your bearings when driving in someone else's car. Unbeknownst to her, a teenager was driving a Mustang nearby. He was pissed because someone passed him a mile earlier, and his ego was hurt. He decided to catch up to the guy and floor the Mustang, getting up to speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour. As my ex pulled out of the parking lot to cross the median, she could not see the Mustang barreling toward her over the hill. He crashed into her, unaliving her and her passenger. 2 seconds earlier or later, they would not have made contact. I went to his trial. I remember her poor mother sitting there stone-faced while testimony was given. Several lives were ruined in that moment. My ex was only 26. She never got married, had kids, or found her way. 12. My former roommate. He had a great job, made great money, and had his own house where I rented a room. The only problem was he was a severe alcoholic and a crappy person. He'd get up at 4:30 to work, get off at 2, and hit the bar until 11. Every single night. Unless he had a girl coming over, then he'd go home at 10, do a quick cleanup of his filthy room, and have obnoxious and very inconsiderate loud intimacy. He hit a guy who was riding his bike intoxicated driving his way home one night. He fled the scene, came home, and went to the neighbor's house and said he hit a pole. The neighbor called the police, and on the way to the house, they found the guy he hit with his front bumper next to the body. He went to jail for vehicular homicide. Did 6 months and got out. Now he lives with his parents and can't get a job because his story is a little infamous in our town. His sister took over his mortgage and lives in his house now. All he does all day is cry on Facebook about how life isn't fair and badmouth the guy he unalived. 13. My father. Punched a window out of anger. Severed the artery and ligament in his bicep. Almost bled out. He effectively removed his ability to work with his hands, which was the one thing he had going for him. He then became a moody pos alcoholic. Actually, he always was one, but he was way worse after this. He then beat the neighbor across the road with a pipe after they got intoxicated and got into an argument. He was arrested and went to jail. My parents lost the family home. They ended up splitting. I had no contact with him. 2 years later, he took his life. 14. The kid I went to high school with wasn't going to graduate and decided to protest by speeding and doing wheelies on the road in front of the school. On his 3rd round, he passed a pickup truck, hooked his leg on the bumper, and was thrown from the bike right on his head, snapping his neck. The school posthumously graduated him. 15. I had a friend who got into his car intoxicated with 5 other people, flipped the car, and unalived one of the passengers. He went from being this charming, good-looking, likable guy to a shut-in and was seen as a monster by many community members. He ended up committing suicide about a year after the accident. He was seriously broken about what had happened.